Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli wa nusallim ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. Dear respected viewers, welcome to our very first episode of Under the Pomegranate Tree, where we're going to be discussing topics such as community, faith, and education, amongst other things, I'm sure. Today, we're blessed to have with us my respected Ustad and a very revered Sheikh of our community. More or less a hidden gem, what I'll say is, Alhamdulillah. So, Assalamu alaikum, Mufti Sahib, welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah khair, Mawlana Sahib, for starting this initiative and obviously having me as the first guest, inshallah. Pray to Allah that He makes this podcast successful.
Ameen, ameen, ameen. Jazakumullah khair. Mufti Sahib, I first heard about you because obviously I studied just over the road at Jamia Islamiyah. And I first heard about you saying, oh, mashallah, there's a new graduate come from Bury and he's setting up, he's been teaching in a few places and he's setting up his own madrasa. So I just heard snippets throughout my studies when I was in madrasa.
I hope they were positive snippets.
No, alhamdulillah, it's very, very good because by that, I didn't know no muftis at that time. So none of our ustads at our madrasa was like a qualified mufti to say, oh, mashallah, we got a mufti, a Bury graduate who's come and he's starting off his own madrasa. It's quite exciting times for us. And then I remember Qari Zubair, one of my classmates, he was talking very highly of you. I think he came and studied with you a little bit as well. And Maulana Jamal Sahib, his brother.
Yes.
So yeah, Mufti Sahib, I was intrigued, but what I'm more interested to know is, like, I suppose today is to find out a bit more about you, inshallah. And, you know, where it started, how did you get into madrasa in the first place and where did you go?
So, alhamdulillah, obviously I'll say that my journey to madrasa, or if you were to look at it like our journey to the beginning and initiation of Darul Ilm, started from, say, Darul Uloom Bury. So I joined Darul Uloom Bury when I was 13 years old.
What year
back
was that?
In 1997.
Okay,
so I still remember the date. It was February the 18th, 1997. So that's when, you know, we had, back in the days, we had to pack up all our suitcases, our bister, our blankets. We put them into the black bags.
Yeah.
Said goodbye to family, to my sisters who were young at that time, my mum as well. And then obviously we made the journey to Darul Uloom Bury. So alhamdulillah, you know, the way things work out, because the week before that, Darul Uloom Bury called us in for an interview. So I went, so the first class I joined was the Hifz class. So I remember the Ustad who kind of like tested us. His name is Maulana Ahmad Ali, Hafidhullah. He's from Bolton. So he asked me, so I memorized 5 juz by that time. So he asked me 3 questions and from the Hifz, and I didn't know a single verse. So I thought to myself, you know what, I probably won't be getting admission into Darul Uloom Bury, which again, you know, look, the way Allah makes things happen, because just say, for example, if Allah had written at that moment that there will be no Darul Uloom Bury in my life, then there perhaps wouldn't have been Darul Ilm, and there wouldn't have been all these students and all these teachers and all these amazing people who we have kind of seen and met over the course of Darul Ilm Birmingham. So it was like he asked 3 questions. I didn't know a single answer. And I remember he actually was... he even complained to my brother who took me that, you know, he doesn't know anything. So I thought, that's it. That's perhaps Darul Uloom Bury not going to happen. But alhamdulillah, perhaps du'as of my mother or du'as of any Akabideens at that time. A couple of days later, they called and they said that, yes, okay, you know, bring him in. Bring him in on the Wednesday it was, which happened to be the 18th of February. So alhamdulillah, the first time we went, fully enrolled as a student. And one of the amazing things about Darul Uloom Bury is, for those who actually been, is that when you enter the place, you actually get taken back by the nur, the light, and it's all down to our Hazrat Mawlana Yusuf Mutala Hafidhullah, Rahimullah, actually, who unfortunately passed away a few years back. So alhamdulillah, you get taken back by the nur and the light. So alhamdulillah, the first class we enrolled into was the Tajweed class. We had to obviously perfect our Tajweed. And then alhamdulillah, after I did the Tajweed properly, and again, my first teacher was Maulana Ahmad Ali Hafidhullah, who actually took my test the week before. But I think he probably took so many students' tests that he didn't remember. I was that student who basically didn't answer a single question. So alhamdulillah, so then afterwards, I then fully started the hifz. Our ustad, first ustad was Maulana Farooq Pando Sahab from Manchester. So alhamdulillah, I was in his class for 1.5 years. And alhamdulillah, within the 1.5 years, I managed to memorize the entire Quran.
MashaAllah.
So really put my head down. And obviously at the beginning, it was really tough.
Yeah.
So obviously the first 5 paras were actually quite easy because I did them before. Obviously it was a bit weak, but I managed to do it again properly. But then from para 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they were very tough. Like to the extent that I used to be like reading every single day, moment, second. But I could still memorize it. And alhamdulillah, after I got over para 10, then I could see like, you then gets a bit more easier. Para 11 was easy, 12, 13. Then at the end, alhamdulillah, it got very easy because I used to read quite a lot, memorized quite a lot as well. And at the end, like, I was like completing a para within like 4 days, 5 days. I was doing like quarter a day sabak, just like 8, 9 sides a day. Just like, so the last 6, 7, I think probably finished in around probably a month or 1.5 months and so on.
MashaAllah.
So alhamdulillah, so I managed to finish it within 1.5 years. So I remember actually started on 10th of July.
Okay.
10th of July, 1997. That's the hifz. So the first few months was just on tajweed. So 10th of July, 1997 started the hifz. And I finished on 25th of March, 1999. So yeah, just over
A year and a half.
1.5 years. So probably, but if you don't count in the Ramadan holidays and everything, so it will be 1.5 years.
Yeah, we'll give that to you, Maulana Sahib.
Yeah.
You got it 1.5 years on record, mashallah. And just to go back a touch, any Hafiz in your family before you? Any Alims in the family before you?
So I'm actually the first one who's kind of chosen this particular line. So no one from my uncles, no one from my grandparents, my father's side, mother's side, no one. So I've basically been the first one to kind of go onto this path.
Was that like your own initiative, or what brought you to, I mean, growing up here in the UK, because you don't live too far from here, do you? So you grew up in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, going back to like the 90s now, what was going on in Birmingham. What made you choose going to a madrasa?
Yeah, so obviously like I had a very close friend. He actually, he's my next door neighbor.
Okay.
So his name is Brother Shafiq Rahman. So he actually went to Darul Uloom. He was in Darul Uloom. So he went, and obviously like mother also like kind of wanted me to like, choose this particular path because my elder 2 brothers, they were more in the business trade. So inshallah, it was like my mother wanted, and alhamdulillah, obviously at the beginning, as a 13-year-old, you don't want to really go and somewhere away from home and family, but actually when I look back at it, I think it was something amazing because obviously it's not just the memorizing of the Quran, but it's also like you get to be independent. You learn to be, to start doing things yourself. Little things like ironing your clothes, washing your clothes.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't do them as much now, but back in the days, we used to do that. Yeah. Washing, cleaning, doing the beds after you wake up, just cleaning your bed, just cleaning your room, things like that. And alhamdulillah, this all down to like, Darul Berry actually taught me in particular, so many things, so many other things, like so many other life skills.
Life skills,
I think a lot of the time people think when you go to madrasa, you're just learning the ilm, which yes, primarily you are, but at the same time, they do teach indirectly so many other life skills, how to actually be independent, how to be resilient. Sometimes like, back in the 90s, it was like unheard of being in a madrasa, especially where Darul Berry is situated, which is there's a lot of like non-Muslims there as well. So there was the element of racism. There was a lot of other things as well. So, and obviously the facilities were totally different to what the youngsters get now in the Darulooms. So being, just making sure that, you be resilient, you get determined. And these are good life skills and qualities to have.
Of course, definitely. And you mentioned that you used to take your bistra with you. So was it like sleeping bags and pillows and stuff?
We took our blankets, pillows. So obviously the Darul would provide the bed and the mattress.
Okay.
And you just have to bring your own beddings, blankets, duvets.
Okay, yeah, mashallah. And I mean, like, I didn't study boarding. I don't think I could have. I was like a mummy's boy. Yeah, I can't live without my mum's cooking or anything like that. It must have been challenging, like growing up. But
yeah, so like at the beginning, there were definitely bouts of homesickness. Don't get me wrong, but I think when you get used to it, the first few months, when you just adjust to everything, waking up early for Fajr, then obviously the early classes. Then you start making friends. You then start meeting new people. You then start seeing like students. SubhanAllah, Darul Berry had like literally students from everywhere, from far as New Zealand, Australia, America, Canada. So when you see like there were like youngsters around my age who were from Australia, New Zealand, and other parts of the world who left their family to come and study, then you think to yourself, okay, do you know what? If they can leave, such far places to come and learn. I know Birmingham is far, like it's around 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but it's actually nothing compared to the sacrifices they've made. So alhamdulillah, so afterwards you just get used to the system, you get used to the food, you get used to like the teachers, the environment, and so it was amazing, especially the early years where our Hazrat Mawlana Yusuf Mutala Rahimullah, was there in the madrasa quite a lot, and he was such an amazing person. He was very kind. Like it's not like he was just a teacher, but he was very loving and compassionate to the students as well. He used to always do things for the students. He was actually a scholar or an imam who was ahead of his time. So even like a lot of the facilities now you have in the boardings, Hazrat implemented that. He initiated many of those many years ago in the early stages of Darul, and alhamdulillah, it was one of the best experiences.
Yeah, mashallah. And I'm glad you spoke about Hazrat Sheikh, because obviously he's like the pioneer now. I was just doing some research on Bury, and it's like, it's the first madrasa to be established in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah.
The first ever one. So subhanallah, every single madrasa that's going to come after that, including Darul Ilm and all the other madrasas that are around here, he's getting all that reward for it, mashallah.
True. It's like it's mentioned in the hadith as well, that whoever starts something good, and then people then act upon it, then you'll get the reward. The one who started it off will get the reward, as mentioned in the hadith. So all the students, so even like here Darul Ilm, which always indebted to the du'as of our ustads from Darul Berry. So every single one who are studying here, who have studied here, who have graduated from here, who are benefiting from here, every single one, all their reward, all the thawab is going to go back to our teachers. And I always like to say it's our teachers. I won't say it's my teachers, because then it's all our teachers. They're all indebted to the shuyukh of Darul Berry.
MashaAllah. So he started he came over from Saharanpur. He graduated from Saharanpur.
That's right, yeah.
He came over to the UK, in the 60s or 70s?
Yeah, it was the late 60s.
Yeah.
And then initially he was the imam of Masjid Zakaria, which is in Bolton. Alhamdulillah, it's a very big masjid now. And thereafterwards, I think it was 1971 where he started Darul Uloom Bury. So again, Darul Uloom Bury, when you look at the graduates of Darul Uloom Bury, like all the great shuyukh of the UK, you're looking at your Monasim Dorat Sahib, you're looking at Mohammad Rahim Sahib, even our Hazrat Mufti Shabbir Sahib, Hafizullah, also studied by Hazrat as well. When you look at a lot of the shuyukh, Mufti Abdul Rahman Mangera, Hafizullah, Mufti Ibn Adam from Leicester, all these great shuyukh scholars, Mufti Saiful Islam, they're all graduates of Darul Uloom Bury. Sheikh Riyaz al-Haq Sahib, again, another graduate of Darul Uloom Bury. Sheikh Ahmad Ali from Bradford, Hafizullah, again, another graduate of Darul Uloom Bury. So we could go on and on. And the amazing thing about Darul Uloom Bury graduates is that they're not just da'is and imams and lecturers of hadith. They've actually spread to different fields. So you have like many of the graduates, they're like, chaplains in prisons, chaplains in the hospitals. They're like founders of, big organizations, even from a worldly perspective as well. So again, it's all down to like Hazrat's vision, that it wasn't just to like create imams and da'is and that's it, but also like someone who will kind of be able to contribute to the society. So when you look at one of the Darul Uloom Bury graduates, it's like amazing. And again, it's not just in the UK. Hazrat's vision was worldwide. So you have like graduates and shuyukh from all across the world, from America, Canada, South America, Trinidad, Caribbean islands, Australia, New Zealand, everywhere you go to, there's always like you'll find somehow a connection with Darul Uloom Bury or a student of Hazrat Maulana Yusuf Mutala, rahimullah.
Definitely. I first got exposed to Hazrat when Maulana Abdul Rahim Limbada Sahib came. So he's like my grand Ustad, and he's like your Ustad.
Ustad, right?
MashaAllah. And I remember then at the time, our Nazim Sahib, Maulana Faisal Haq Abdul Aziz Hafizullah, he said, this is my Ustad and he's your grand Ustad. And I was like, okay. And then Maulana Abdul Rahim says, and your great grand Ustad is my Ustad. And he mentioned Hazrat Bani, Hazrat Maulana Yusuf Mutala Sahib. So I was like, okay. So he goes like, you come from a great pedigree of ulama over here. And then I think that's what sort of opened my eyes. I'm like, okay, who is this guy? What was it? And I never really done any research then, but I think after graduating, I read a bit more about him, got to know him more, and then obviously he passed away in 2019.
19 he was, yeah, that's right.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect him and shower nur on his grave, inshallah, and elevate him in ranks.
Ameen.
So, okay, so you went to Darul Uloom Bury, you done your hifz in a record, mashallah, 1.5 years.
I won't say it's a record. I think some have done it a bit more quicker than that, but alhamdulillah, I think...
It's fairly quick, mashallah.
Yeah, it's fairly quick, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the toughest part is always to retain
it took me about a year to learn Surah Mulk. So, mashallah, you smashed it. So 1.5 years, and then obviously you must have continued your studies then, otherwise
yes, so,
Darul Ilm had to come about somehow.
So after that, I did a few months of Dor, so just going over it, making sure that it's strong and pakka, hopefully for the rest of my life. And then beginning of 2000, so basically Darul Uloom at that time used to run the traditional Ramadan to Ramadan academic year. I think now it's more like September to July with the school, but back in the days it was always Ramadan to Ramadan. So I think Ramadan that year, 1999, was perhaps December time, November, December time. So I think 2000, early 2000, January. So that's when the new academic year starts. So I enrolled into the Alim class. So it was year 1. So Darul Uloom, obviously, I'm not sure about now. I think they may have changed. But back in the days, late 90s, early 2000s, the syllabus was still taught in Urdu. So now, me being a Bengali, no exposure to Urdu whatsoever, just knew English and Bengali. So now, the next challenge was that you had to learn a language. So you're trying to learn the grammar, the Nahu and Sarf, and obviously the kitabs. But then on top of that, trying to learn a language as well. So the initial year or two was kind of like, I was kind of doing two jobs in a way, like two tasks every day. One was trying to understand the books, the Arabic, the Hidayatul Nahwa, the Ilmun Nahwa or Nahumi, sorry, we had in those days. Trying to learn the Sarf, Muallimu Sarf, Ilmu Siga, these books. And also, because those books were written in Urdu, so you're trying to learn the language and then trying to, with a new language, trying to then learn the Nahwa and the Sarf, which was a challenge. Definitely. So the first couple of years was like trying to like making sure that, you're learning the language and also at the same time you're kind of learning the Nahwa and Sarf as well.
No Farsi books, because I come from Saharanpur. I would have thought Hazrat Shaykh would have studied in Farsi and Urdu and Arabic, right?
Yeah. So initially in Darul Ilm there was Farsi in the syllabus, but then Hazrat did take it out. I'm not sure exactly when, but he did actually take it out. So it was
Alhamdulillah.
Could you imagine so that? It was just like in Urdu. You say, yeah, imagine if it was Farsi, it would have been even more of a challenge. So and I said this many times to students as well, that I won't say I was like a very sharp student. There were like many other students in my class who were, mashallah, very smart, very clever, zillion times much cleverer than me. I was just one of those like who just kind of like, your normal 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, just like your average student. I wouldn't say I was like probably brainy, and nor would I say that kind of I knew everything. And I always say that to the students, that I know sometimes students in year 1, year 2, they feel overwhelmed, especially, there's too many books, or there's too much to know, or I don't know it. That means I'm not really capable of continuing with the journey. And I always say to them that, look, sometimes you actually learn more after you graduate. You actually learn more later on in life. Like even now as well, I've been teaching for many years. But I'll say I picked up more like understanding of hadith and more understanding of tafsir, more so than I did when I was a student.
Yeah.
So even though like you were getting taught by the best of the best, and you were, we got taught so many books, but I'll say that I really excelled after you graduate. So inshallah, the first 2 years was that. But alhamdulillah, I'll say from Salisa, year 3, year 4, it was called Al-Hidayah. Then year 5, year 6, alhamdulillah, we kind of like got more focused. I was picking up more, alhamdulillah, and just amazing just to be in the suhbah, in the environment, the suhbah of obviously my teacher, and obviously my sheikh now as well, my murshid, Hazrat Sufi Tahir Sahib, Hafidhullah. So such like a humble person.
Yeah, definitely.
Being in his company, Mufti Shabir Sahib, who I spent many moments, especially in the Ifta program, such an ocean of ilm and knowledge, where just like any issues you have, he'll kind of give you the answers.
Yeah, we sort of jumped forward a bit now. So we've gone on to the Ifta program. We haven't completed the Alimiyyah program yet. So obviously it was 6 years in Bury, was it?
Yes,
the Alimiyyah program.
Yeah, it was 6 years. So it was 6 years, alhamdulillah.
And who taught Dora there? Right.
So Dawratul Hadith, we had. So I'll come back to Sahih Bukhari, who taught that in a second. So Sahih Muslim was Hazrat Maulana Rahim Sahib. Then Abu Dawud Sharif, we got taught by Hazrat Maulana Hashim Sahib, mashallah. So obviously he's ill at the moment, but alhamdulillah, he taught us. He was actually ill there then as well. He used to like sit on one of these big massive chairs, and he would have a table and he would teach, and his eyesight was very like weak and it was kind of diminishing. So he used to use a magnifying glass and he used to kind of like teach with that.
Wow.
So we had Maulana Hashim Sahib for Abu Dawud Sharif. Then obviously for Tirmidhi, we had Hazrat Mufti Shabir Sahib. Hafidhullah was an amazing teacher. Sunan Nasai, we had Hazrat Maulana Bilal Sahib. And Sunan Ibn Majah, we had Hazrat Maulana Noshad Sahib. So alhamdulillah, these were our main 6 teachers. Obviously, Hazrat Sufi Sahib taught us Muwatta Malik. Muwatta Imam Muhammad, Mufti Shabir Sahib taught us. And then we also had Shamali Tirmizi, which was taught by Maulana Umarji, rahimahullah, who obviously passed away, I think it was around 2014, a decade or so ago. So alhamdulillah, these are our teachers. So now in Bukhari was slightly different. What used to happen in Sahih al-Bukhari was that we had around 6-7 teachers, and they kind of taught us various parts of Sahih al-Bukhari. So like, for example, the beginning part from Kitab al-Iman to Kitab al-Jumu'ah was taught by Hazrat Mona Hashim Sahib. Then afterwards, from Kitab al-Jumu'ah to the Manasik topic, Kitab al-Hajj topic, that was Mona Bilal Sahib. And then Mufti Shabir Sahib, he taught us from Manasik all the way until the Istiqraat topic. And then Istiqraat to the Kitab al-Jihad was Mona Dareem Sahib. And then it was Mona Noshad Sahib from Bab al-Jihad all the way until the end of Bukhari part 1. And then part 2, we had Hazrat used to teach the Maghazi topics, about the battles and so on.
Okay.
And Kitab al-Tafsir, Fadail al-Quran was taught by Hazrat Mona Yusuf Mutala, rahimullah. And then Sufi Sahib used to teach us from Kitab al-Nikah. So he used to teach Kitab al-Nikah all the way until Kitab al-Ayman wa Nudur. And then from there, we had another Ustad called Mona Hifzur Rahman Sahib, who taught us a few sections from the back. And then the last part was just taught by Hazrat Mufti Shabir Sahib. We just taught the last part. So Mufti Shabir Sahib was known as someone who would finish off the books. He's known to he'll finish off the books. So obviously, he won't rush anything. It's not like we'll just teach it just for the sake of it. But he's always known as he'll finish his books off. So whatever he teaches, he will teach extra to ensure that everything is taught properly. So, and again, Hazrat Mufti Shabir Sahib had an amazing time management. A single second in class would not be wasted. So, yeah, perhaps nowadays when we teach, we probably have a bit of a laugh and a joke. But Mufti Shabir Sahib used to proper straight. He used to come on time. He used to teach. No kind of laughter joke. Here and there he would crack a joke. But he used to be teaching non-stop. And then he used to teach us on the weekend, mornings, evenings, you name it. So I know some of the students who may be watching and thinking that, where does Mufti Sahib get the idea, like myself, where do I get the idea of teaching extra? So that's from Hazrat Mufti Shabir Sahib. So he kind of instilled that into me in terms of making sure that you teach properly, thoroughly. If that means that you need to give extra time, whether weekend, to sacrifice that, your free time to ensure that you teach and maintain that high standard and levels, then so be it. So, alhamdulillah, Hazrat Mufti Shabir Sahib taught me that aspect and that element.
MashaAllah. So, mashallah, you benefited for so many different shuyukh, mashallah. And we can tell that, not only when I'm sitting in your lessons now, I can see you can tell that somebody's gone through the grind. You can tell somebody's put in the hours, somebody's put in the work to do it. They haven't come in, just off the cuff. You can tell they know their business. So now, alhamdulillah, I know where you get it from. It's that pedigree, isn't it? That's been passed down from Hazrat Sheikh, then his ustad, that work ethic of not only teaching, but making it impactful as well. So, okay, because the reason I'm saying this is now, alhamdulillah, so many madaris have popped up and they're producing so many ulama off a conveyor belt. I just don't feel as though the quality and the substance is there as it used to be in your era.
No, it's true. I agree with that. Look, at the same time, I think everyone's doing their bit. So, and it's very challenging. It's a challenging era as well, because I think back in the days, 90s, early 2000, life was simple. Life was a bit more sad. I think now with the smartphones and other problems and fitnas, which I'm sure in the future podcasts will kind of touch on with other shuyukh and scholars and guest speakers. But I think time's different. But it's like what you mentioned. I think that's a key point. I think the ustads in Darul Ilm, they literally had an impact on me. And this is what I try to do with the students, with the current crop of students we have, inshallah, and I hope that it continues as well. And may Allah give us all tawfiq, ameen. And that is that, to have an impact. So, yes, sometimes the students, we may not know everything. As I already told you, I won't say I was the brainiest student and the cleverest. And I won't say when I was in Dawratul Hadith that I knew everything and Tirmidhi and Abu Dawood. perhaps I didn't know much anyway, but what I took from every lesson was more like, the impact, the effect of the teachers, their professionalism, like coming on time, teaching, little things like that, which we sometimes forget. They actually play a very, very important part in a person's development.
Yeah, definitely. I get that, because thinking back to my own studies as well, you learn so much from the teacher that wasn't inside the book. Those khariji batein, those things that they give you from their own experiences, things that were passed down from their sheikhs. I used to find that very intriguing. I used to love to hear about my ustads' stories from their ustads, things that I know now that I won't be able to find in any book.
True.
This is stuff that just is passed down, and this is why I think that suhbat is really, really important. Having a good connection with your ustads. I think the ustad needs to know the student needs to appreciate the teacher as well. And then when they get onto that level, then they get inspired to learn. You don't have to be that, that grade A student. You don't have to have that high IQ. You just got to have that desire and that want to do it. And I think
that passion to kind of have an impact and so on.
Yeah, so it's the ustad's job to then instill that passion inside the student. And if he does that, I think that's his job's completed then.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I think yeah, I was going to say these things will get cut out. That's right.
No, we'll keep it in. Mufti is human. No, but let's move on. So Alim course has been, mashallah, completed. There's so many stars that you mentioned, so many illustrious ulama. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect them, preserve them. So then normally that's it now. 6 years, job done. You're farigh now, isn't it?
Yeah.
They call it the faraghat. They say you're farigh. They come down. They put a dastar bandi. They put the patka on your head. They wrap you with a turban and they send you on their way. But that never happened with you, did it?
Yeah. So you probably want to know what made me stay back another year. So in a way, like, to tell the truth, the honest truth was that do you know when I graduated? So that was in 2005 when I finished the Alimiyyah. I felt like I didn't know much. When I look back at it, I think that's important, because sometimes it's good to be a bit humble and
definitely,
and be as I think the moment you start thinking, I know everything, then that's the problem, because then you never will push yourself to do anything else or any other courses, anything else, because you just act as though you know everything. And when I graduated in 2005. I really thought to myself, you know what, I think I don't really know much of my fiqh and my hadith and so on. So I thought, you know what, let me just do another extra year of the Ifta program. Darul Uloom, as far as I know, they don't offer Ifta programs anymore, but then that year or the year before they started it. So I think initially they offered Ifta and then they stopped because I think not many students were interested. And then they started offering it again, I think the year before. So it was like 2004, 2005, they started offering it again. So I thought that, you know what, let me stay back another extra year. And tell the truth, I think that was one of the best decisions I made, because it could have been very easy for me to, like, as you quite rightly mentioned, that, okay, you've done your hifz, you've done your alim. Okay, that's more than enough. You should now go back. And the funny thing is that there were some people who were saying that, look, what's the point of staying back another year? Just why don't you just come back? There's so much things to do in the locality, which is true.
Yeah.
But when I look back at it, I think if it wasn't for the Iftar program, the things which we have achieved as an institution, individually, personally, I think that wouldn't have been possible without the Iftar program. So I think the Iftar program was definitely the eye-opener, because then all those books you hear throughout the Alim class syllabus, when the ustads will give notes and they'll make reference to like Badayu Sanai and Durre Mukhtar and Raddul Muhtar and Fatah Hindiya, which we used to just write it down, but we never had the tawfiq to ever what does that book look like? And what is that book? And how does that fare in the pecking order? Which one's Muftabihi, which one's a Zahir Riwayat? We used to hear all these terms, Zahir Riwayat, Raji opinion, Ashab al-Takhrij, Ashab al-Tarjih. So it was actually the moment then to kind of, okay, let's get back to the basics, kind of, do the research. And the Ifta program was one of the best years of my study life, because student life, because we had access to the Darul Uloom library. Now, those of you who've been to Darul Uloom, we're not talking about they got two libraries. One is the student one, and one is the main library, which was looked after by Hazrat Mona Didat Sahib, who obviously sadly passed away, rahimullah. And that library of Darul Uloom, they are absolutely gems of books, like manuscripts, like amazing books. And alhamdulillah, I had the key to that.
Mashallah.
So basically, as soon as lessons would finish, so we used to finish around 3-4 o'clock, then in the evening I'll go at 5-6, and I'll be there until 1-2 in the morning, every single non-stop, like 6-7-8 hours non-stop. I'll be in the library. So I'll be like going over all the books, and again, this is like in a main library. So we'll all the tafsir, hadith, you name it, I'll be going over all that. And that actually opened me up to the the different like sources, the different reference books. There's so many things which I read during that time that I even quote now to students, that it's in that book, and I know because I read it in that book all those years ago. So alhamdulillah, I think that was real, the eye opener, and I just was literally in the library for most of the weekends, even weekends I used to be in the library, and it was just amazing, just like fatwa books and upon fatwa books, hadith. It was like amazing just to be surrounded by books. And just one thing to mention, that a couple of years ago, I did a tour of the Far East, like Australia, New Zealand, and then I visited Fiji as well. And there was a madrasa we visited, and I stayed the night there. So obviously, Fiji, they're more like third world countries. So their setup, madrasas are very similar to Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, where when guests come, they have a guest house where all the mehman khana, where all the mehman stay. So they put all my bags there in the guest house. I went to the library in the madrasa in Fiji, and that library reminded me of Darul Uloom, the way it was laid out and all the. And you know what? I had this moment, like a little child, as I say, in a sweet shop.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. So I just wanted to just stay the night there. So they told me that, do you want to go and sleep together? So no, I want to sleep here. So I decided to sleep in the library. So I was reading the books until quite late at night. And then afterwards, because they also had very amazing books as well. And I just fell asleep reading some books, and then woke up for Fajr. Then after Fajr, probably read some books as well. So alhamdulillah, that was the amazing thing about the Ifta program.
I had some questions for you, Mufti Sahib. I wanted to do an icebreaker at the beginning, right?
Okay.
But I don't know, I forgot, right? And I guess I was just interested to hear your story, because and I'm sure any of your other students that are listening now who watch this, it's very rare that you get to have this one-to-one with an ustad and find out exactly what happened, unless you actually take the time out to do it. So first of all, thank you for this opportunity and giving me this insight. So obviously you studied the Ifta program, you did that in Bury, you went through all these books and everything. Now, see, the general public nowadays, I think more so than previously, there's not a lot of qadr for the ulama, there's not a lot of respect, because they don't see what they go through, they don't see the trials and the tribulations, dragging your bedding from Birmingham to Bury and then back, and then spending nights in the libraries, studying after hours, things like this. Now all of this knowledge has come at a price, your time, your effort, and it's very, because studying under you now as well, I know how difficult it is, and I know how challenging it is, and I see these sort of icebreakers when people are just asking Mufti Sahib a question, right? And it's I think it's a bit undermining. I don't think they should be asked like this. But the couple of brothers that I did speak to, they were like, can you please do it with Mufti Sahib? So hopefully, forgive me, inshallah, if I can just ask you just some quick fire questions.
Yeah, no worries, inshallah. No worries.
We'll keep them simple, inshallah. Yeah?
No worries.
Hopefully, the listeners can benefit, inshallah. So question number one then. Does brushing the teeth break the fast?
So regarding breaking the fast, it's basically what goes inside. So if somebody brushed their teeth, for argument's sake, and they brushed in such a way that they didn't, nothing went down their throat. Now, whether that is feasible, possible, only Allah knows best. But just say if they managed to do it very slowly and nothing went down, the fast will not break, but it will definitely be makruh, disliked. Why? Because you are bringing or taking your fast to the verge of invalidation. So that will be the ruling now. Yes, if they swallowed something, like, something went down the saliva and then into their throat, then yes, that will kind of break their fast in that situation.
See, this is the grey area now. And it's like somebody can turn around and say, well, chewing gum then? Does chewing gum not going down my throat?
But with chewing gum is that what happens, the gum doesn't go down the throat, but then the saliva is mixed with the flavors, isn't it? So that then goes down the throat. So that will then break the fast.
Okay. So hypothetically speaking.
Yeah. So if somebody was chewing in a way that it wasn't going down their throat, then the fast will be makruh. Obviously, if he went down, makruh tahrimi. But obviously, if he went down, and most likely probably will do, then obviously the fast will break in that situation.
It seems like a simple question, right? But I've had so many mixed messages. We grew up thinking you're not allowed to brush your teeth, yeah? You're not allowed to brush your teeth. That's it. We used to brush it at Sehri time, and then that's it, right? We never used to brush it again. And then people are like, you're allowed to brush your teeth as long as the flavor doesn't go down. You don't use toothpaste, this, that, and the other. So, Jazakallah, thank you for that clarity anyway. So, as long as it doesn't go down your throat, but would you say you should avoid it?
Yeah, it's best to avoid it. It's best to avoid it.
Okay, cool. Next question then. Combining prayers, is it permissible in... The question is a certain situation, but I'm just going to ask it blanket. Are we allowed to combine our prayers?
So again, if you look at other imams, they do allow it. Other imams meaning besides Hanafis, so they do allow it if you're traveling, if you're ill, if it's raining. But within our Hanafi madhab framework, you're not allowed to combine the prayers whatsoever. The only two times you can within the Hanafi madhab is in Hajj. So when it comes to like Zuhr and Asr in Arafah, again, that is also with certain conditions being found. And the second time is obviously Muzdalifah, where you combine between Maghrib and Isha, known as Jama Ta'khir, where you're actually praying the Maghrib and Isha during the Isha time. But besides that particular time or those two particular occasions, you're not allowed to combine the prayers in the Hanafi madhab whatsoever.
You're not allowed to combine them.
You're not allowed to combine. Obviously, look, there's ways around it. Something which is known as Jama Suni, which basically means, say, like Dhuhr and Asr. So, all right, you're traveling, we understand. So what you can do is that pray Dhuhr at the last possible time and Asr at the beginning time. So Asr beginning like 2:15 at the moment. So Dhuhr at the last possible time, say 2 o'clock, 10 past 2, the latest. And then after that, when Asr Salah kicks in, then you could pray your Asr.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because you're praying it at their own times, right?
Own time, yeah.
Okay. Third question then. This is for me. Okay. So can Jummah be prayed in an office space with colleagues?
So as long as the main condition we need to look at for Jummah being prayed outside the masjid musalla setting is something which is known as Iznul Am. So Iznul Am basically means that is there like permission for the public to kind of come and pray? Because for Jummah, you can't stop or prevent anyone from coming. So is there like a permission for everyone to pray? Now, obviously, if you look at it from that perspective, then perhaps, yes, praying Jummah at universities, prisons, like chaplains do, hospitals and so on. And obviously, like you mentioned, the question about office spaces. If you look at it from that perspective, may not be allowed. But obviously, what the ulama and the scholars have said is that there is ni'am in such situations, like in prisons and so on, as long as people from the prison are allowed to come. Yes, the reason why we don't allow the public to come is because of their safety. Likewise in hospital. Likewise, like in enclosed places like schools. A lot of the schools now, alhamdulillah, are doing, or university, they do Jummah schools as well. But the reason why they won't allow anyone from the street to come and pray is not because of Izn Am reasons. It's because of they are for the safety of the students.
Yeah.
So if in that situation, the meaning of Izn Am will be is that as long as no student and there's no discrimination where some students are being prevented from coming, as long as that doesn't happen. So just say in a university campus, yes, we're not going to allow someone from the street to come, but within the university, no one is being stopped or prevented or being discriminated against in terms of you can't come. As long as that doesn't happen and it's kind of open permission for everyone, then inshallah you can hold Jummahs in such places.
Jazakallah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, next question then. This is a new one that's popped up now. Is an online nikah valid? So people are like, boy and a girl meeting each other, and then somebody is, I don't want to go into whether there's wali permission or anything like that just now, but is the nikah in it of itself, let's just hypothetically saying there's walis, there's kafils, everything's there, the diary's been set, is the nikah in it of itself acceptable online? So somebody's in Pakistan or Bangladesh and they're doing a Zoom call to somebody in, say, France.
So like for the nikah to be valid, obviously the condition is that boy, girl, the two witnesses, they have to be in one majlis. So if the girl's not there, then the girl's wali needs to be there or her wakil needs to be there. Now, what I'm trying to say is that the way around it is like if the boy and girl nominate wakils. So if they have a wakil or an agent, so not a wali, like a wakil or an agent. So say for example, if the girl, say in India, Pakistan, nominates, say, Abdullah living in the UK, that Abdullah, you are my wakil, you are my representative on my behalf to kind of conduct my nikah with Hassan who lives in the UK. So now if you have the girl's wakil in the UK, Hassan is in the UK and the two witnesses are in the UK, then in that situation, the nikah can happen. Ideally, obviously, they should be there physically, the girl should be there or the girl's wali, but if the girl's wali is not there because she's from Pakistan, Bangladesh, her father, brother are all there, the only way around it for the nikah to be valid and correct, especially happened during the COVID time, is that she makes a wakil. So wakil could be anyone.
He's like a representative.
Yeah, representative. It could be someone from a mahram, ghair mahram, it doesn't matter. And he is the wakil and then he does the nikah with her, with the person, whoever it is, girl, boy, in the UK, in the presence of two witnesses, and then that will be fine.
Okay, just to follow up on that one, let's just say the boy and the girl are here in the UK.
Okay.
But they can't find anyone to do their nikah.
Okay.
They don't have a wali. Can she represent her own wakil? Can she select her own wakil without permission of her wali for somebody else to do it?
So again, like in the Hanafi madhab, it's kind of straightforward. Like as I'm sure you know, like as long as if the girl is mature, aqil, sane, then yes, she can conduct her own nikah. She doesn't need to get permission from the wali. But at the same time, I don't want to obviously promote this particular opinion. Obviously, we all recommend and request that sisters in particular that don't always rush by yourself to a nikah and marriage. Take your time, speak to your parents, speak to your elders. If you don't have, like a wali, like a father or a brother, uncles, if they're not there, just even speak to the local imam, someone elder, someone like a mentor, speak to them and I just ask for mashwara and advice. And I'm sure in the future podcasts we we're looking at these types of issues of
Definitely.
nikah and marriages and problems in marriages. So, alhamdulillah, what I would say to the sisters is, yeah, technically it can be allowed, like it will be allowed, nikah will be done in the Hanafi madhab if she went ahead and got married. But I would kind of strongly recommend that she kind of like obviously speaks to a wali about it, say that, look, there's this person I want to get married to, and then do it properly and correctly. Inshallah, that'll be much better.
Definitely, and I'm sure we're going to touch on this, as you mentioned,
Yes.
in other episodes, inshallah. Okay, 2 more questions to go, Maulana Sahib. Not a lot to go. So, car insurance, is car insurance halal?
Yes. So obviously, without going to the nitty gritty, obviously technically insurances are not allowed because of element of chancing and gambling and riba and so on. But obviously, as it's the law of the country, it will be allowed and permitted.
Okay. And the last one, is it permissible to sell alcohol here in the UK?
So obviously, alcohol is haram. So anything which is haram, it will also be haram and unlawful to sell as well. So that's alcohol, pigs, swines, anything which is of a haram nature, drugs, intoxicants, they will always be haram to sell.
I didn't want to like ask them right. I was planning on asking them at the beginning. I sort of forgot, and then I didn't want to, and then I think that the conversation sort of got there when you finished up your Ifta course, and I just thought, it'd be nice if you just
it's good.
add on to it. So, Jazakumullah khair. I just want to, obviously you've done a lot of studies. You studied in different mashayikh. You went to Darul Uloom Bari. You've come back now. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the ability now to set up Darul Ilm, this establishment. You are now teaching loads and loads of students. What advice would you give to your own students who study at Darul Ilm, and then any other student that has enrolled in a Darul Uloom?
Those who are studying, obviously, what I would say is, istiqamat, steadfastness. But like I mentioned earlier, don't give up. Don't think that you're not going to learn, or don't think that, I'm not understanding it. Allah will always open doors. So just like stick at it, persevere, be determined, don't give up. And as long as you have that, inshallah, and you look after yourself, then I'm sure you'll be successful.
Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair, Mufti Sahib.
Thank you for your time, inshallah. For having me on this very first episode.
Jazakumullah khair. Thank you for coming. Guys, that's it. I think we'll leave it there, inshallah. Please join us again for more episodes coming up in the future. We're going to have a lot more guests, a lot more scholars coming in to impart on their knowledge, inshallah, and a lot more interesting topics coming up as well. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.